So why the Fairy Queen?
So why the Fairy Queen?
Yeah.
What kind of question is that?
Why have you produced this one?
Yeah, why is the Fairy Queen? Well, Greg, it's your fault.
It's my fault, yeah. Well, we were looking for a good way to celebrate the 450th anniversary of Shakespeare's birth, musically speaking, in the Temple. One thinks about big Verdi operas based on Shakespeare, like Macbeth and Othello, which we just can't do in the space. And so my thoughts turned back to the 17th century and Purcell and A Fairy Queen, which is full of absolutely wonderful music based on A Midsummer Night's Dream. Of course, Middle Temple Hall was the place where Twelfth Night was premiered in the early 17th century. So there's strong Shakespearean resonances within the hall, and it seemed a wonderful place to put on the production.
And you're connected with the Temple, aren't you? I mean, you are, as
I
am
am.
I, actually.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
And not
the
just
organist
us.
of the church.
Yeah, you're the organist of the church.
And you.
Nice seeing there. And,
Yeah.
and actually, the players and the singers, we've got a sort of ready-made team
Absolutely.
of people.
Yeah. So most of the men sing in the Temple Church Choir, the ladies all sing with the Temple Singers,
Yes.
and the players are sort of associated through the group called the Temple Players.
So it's brilliant for us to do it in Middle Temple Hall because it's right in the middle of where somewhere we're all connected, and it's great for just to use that space theatrically. I mean, it's great for the Temple too, isn't it? Because we, as you say, we celebrate the 450th anniversary of Shakespeare with this fantastic piece in this essentially Shakespearean hall, wonderful architecture, and I mean that's for Rhys as well, for the design point of view. I mean, it's a great place to do a show, isn't it? Especially one that's maybe about forests and magic.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's I mean, it's quite a heavy impression that it leaves upon you when you're in the room. The thing that you get, the thing that you experience the most is this kind of oppressive wooden architecture, this ancient, lovely stuff that's up in the ceiling. So it's a challenge.
The ceiling is particularly amazing.
Yeah, so it's a particular challenge, I suppose, design-wise, to make sure that you can kind of hook into the space and to use the space in any possible way. So some of our grander dreams, maybe for another day, but this version hopefully draws on some of the aesthetics of the space and uses them in what we're doing on the ground. So hopefully links that whole room together.
Yes, and we had this thinking of what fairies were and what a fairy world was, and in a way the idea that the fairies are sort of all around us now as they're not sort of connected to any time or place, and sometimes you can see them if you're lucky, if you're a child maybe, and most of the time you can't, but things might get, your life might be affected in a sort of fairy-like way. And this idea of possibly when we do the Fairy Queen, we go to that world, we reveal what is really there. I love that idea that we go into the hall and actually reveal it for what it really is, and it's almost is a forest. Even if you were to invert that ceiling, they're like tree roots. And so we're not imposing anything on the building at all. We're trying to reveal what its sort of fairy character might be. And in the same way, we're doing that with the fairies themselves. So the fairies are dressed in, I can say this now because you won't see this until after you've seen the show, but all the fairies will be temple staff. They're a bit like we are, in a sense. We're musicians, we serve the temple, the temple as musicians, and but there'll be waiters and ushers and chefs and security guards, and then actually, but when they get the chance, and they get the chance to on this particular night, because it's the night before Oberon's birthday, which in our understanding of the opera is particularly revelrous. Can I say that?
Yes.
Revelrous night. So that there's a lot of sort of potential for having a lot of fun and revealing what your true nature is, and I think that goes very, that's brilliant what you've done with the space and bringing out the elements that are there and sort of revealing it in a way. Is the idea.
It's magic, isn't it? The whole piece is about magic, and it's about dreams and nightmares, maybe. So
yes,
bringing things to life.
Supernatural.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So that's why the Fairy Queen. Any other questions?
What have you learnt by doing this as a new production?
Well, I've done it once before. about my own production of this, so I know it well musically and dramatically. Of course, the thing about doing this production, as we all know, is a production of Fairy Queen, is that normally it's done with the play. Not normally, actually. I mean, traditionally it was done with the play. It used to be done with the play, and sort of incidental music that went in and around the play of Midsummer Night's Dream, or a version, a 17th century version of Midsummer Night's Dream. But nowadays it's not usually done like that, and that presents a particular sort of challenge to the people trying to put it on. It makes a fantastic concert, Fairy Queen. There's no need to do anything to it. It's not that it needs to be done, but it's also Purcell's such a fantastic dramatic composer on so many levels. For me, and I think for you, it's such good dramatic stuff. Then if you have the opportunity to stage it, I think you're challenged by Purcell as much as anything to find the eccentricity, to find the true character of what he's doing, because he doesn't just provide good music. He always seems to do more than he needs to. He's witty. The orchestration, the harmonies, they're so interesting and fun and varied and eccentric often. I mean, there's some incredible dances and things in this piece. So I think you're challenged to, if you are going to stage it, to match that, or to put it in a world where it's going to work. Of course, without the Midsummer Night's Dream, there's no plot off which it would hang, and so I think it's to take. I was talking to someone else about the Plaint. The fact we were talking about the Plaint the other day, and I think the Plaint is a brilliant example where it's one of Purcell's greatest pieces, if indeed it's by Purcell. If it's by Purcell, he's done very well there.
Yes.
It's
It's a fabulous piece.
Yeah.
But it always seems slightly out of kilter in its original place.
Yes.
To my mind.
Yes. Well, we should, the order of.
Because it was inserted for the revival of Fairy Queen a year after the original production.
Yes.
And
possibly for a singer.
Possibly just for a particular singer. So it has a very particular theatrical history, and it always felt like it was a bit of
an addition
to the Hyman Masque.
Yes.
And we've moved it to the beginning of the second act, which I think, dramatically speaking, works fantastically well.
Yes.
It really makes it.
Because it stands on its own, doesn't it?
Yes.
It really does stand on its own.
Yeah.
And of course, it being an incredibly beautiful aria about loss, a lament about loss. This, just to go back to the kind of what kind of theatrical context you put in. If you don't know what it's about, or you don't connect to the character, and of course, the singer in the Fairy Queen on its own is not connected to any character that we've met before. We don't know what she's talking about. If you don't do the play, if you don't know that she's probably talking about Titania and the Indian boy. If you just do it as a concert, you just get lovely music, and that's really fine. It's incredible music. But if you're doing it in a dramatic situation and you do care about Titania, if you do understand the emotional involvement she's had with this boy that her husband is just taking away from her, and what damage that does to her relationship with him, and of course we know from Midsummer Night's Dream that there's this their war causes global climate change. It has an incredible effect on the mortal world, and we also know that there's a marriage mask coming up, so this whole thing is relevant. But if we understand that, then we hear the Plaint. Then I think that's the opportunity you're given, and I think you're serving Purcell by doing that. You're serving the piece, the musical piece, by giving it a position where it can really mean something. Yeah.
And for me personally, going through this whole process has been fascinating, sort of making links between different parts of the pieces and thinking about how you might, because we have moved things around quite a bit.
Yes.
And certain scenes sort of seem to link in very well with other scenes.
Yes. And
actually finding the link both musically and thematically between the different parts of the play is, I think it can really sort of, it's really deepened my understanding of the music as well. Yes, it can illuminate the whole thing.
Yeah. So I think we've learnt that. We've learnt that it's well, certainly I have too. I think doing a different production is, and for me this is closer to the sort of Shakespeare thing. I've learnt how very similar to what you're saying actually, that the resonances that are sort of possible when you stay very close to the play and you take the ideas, then I think, because obviously Shakespeare, obviously. Have you found that visually?
I suppose visually it's quite hard to, because it, as you say, it could sort of be just a concept, and it's really doesn't really. You have to really find the thread through that you're going to take, I suppose,
Yes, hopefully to reveal the music in its best light. And that's what we're after.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that really, a lot of the time, you just need to take a back seat, perhaps. So you feel that any advance you make on the music is maybe inappropriate. But so I hope the things that we've used where are quite light-hearted sometimes, are quite punctuations rather than anything too oppressive. That they're there to, as vehicles, I suppose, to kind of translate that music and bring it a bit more to life, a bit more into the room, a bit more into the faces of our audience.
Yeah, allow it to resonate in ways that really touch people now, and modern audience. I think that's the other thing which I think you've done brilliantly. And it's that as we said at the beginning, fairies are of any time. The idea of the fairy world, and the idea of who they are, and what they stand for. Just as the ideas of Shakespeare are of any time. It's not that we think that how interesting people felt those things in those times. We think that could be me, and that's what and imagine that happening to you. You can, and that's why we love it.
Absolutely.
Lovely.
Anything else?
Do you think having the people that you're with from the temple, does that make a difference? Would it be the same if you weren't that team of people?
I think it's a great question. I think both the people doing it and the venue make a big difference. And actually, because we put together some script. I've written some script so that no one else gets blamed. But I've written some script, which we're also developing with the actors and things, which gives us the chance, in the same way that we are visually, to really locate it in the middle temple hall. In this fairly extraordinary and slightly rarefied world of lawyers, and where they eat lunch. They eat lunch in this place that was the premiere venue for Twelfth Night by Shakespeare. They just have their lunch there every day, and that's and so it is. And in this slightly cloistered world, there we are. We've put it in there, and I think it's great. We have the opportunity, and not only the place and the people we're doing it with who know that world, but it's Halloween, so I think there's an opportunity to it's great. It's great when theatre is where it is at the time it is with the people it is. That's why it was a great question. I think it makes a huge difference, and we should really, I think if we did this next year in Wembley Arena,
it would maybe have the same resonance.
No, we'd have to do it differently.
That's the great thing about theatre, isn't it? It's a live moment that you can't really experience again. You can't really record and experience another time. It doesn't work.
No, and we're doing this very quickly too. I mean, we put it together in sort of 2 weeks, and that's also gives that whole life. It gives a certain spirit. We need not to be too perfectionist about it.
True. Well.
Yeah. That's not a license.
You must try.
Let's all try. Great. Anything else?
Not that I can think of.
Thank you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.